Welcome to the GCN Tech Clinic, where myself and Alex aim to answer your cycling and bike and maintenance related questions. You can submit your questions using the hashtag AskGCNTech down in the comments down below.
Should we dive in straight into our first question?
Let's do it, mate.
Our first question is from Peter Prishing, who says, is there anything you can treat your sunglasses with that repels rain? Said it was attending a race at the weekend, it was pooing down, he says, presuming it's pouring. Glasses were full of drops inside and out. Is there anything you can recommend? I certainly can recommend something, and it's a hydrophobic coating is what you need to repel the rainwater. God, you've made me laugh a lot there. Legit, it says it was pooing down.
Next question is from Eric Berman, who asks about the Tour de France, and he's saying, what are the sensors that they attach onto the forks of the bikes? He says he's seen them shrink wrapped and taped onto the front fork, and he's never noticed them before. And he says he knows that there is a sensor fitted under the saddle. Okay, so yes, so the black box you see fitted under the saddle, and sometimes in other places, sometimes on the seat post, they are from Dimension Data. There's other companies that do them, but they're fitted there and they're gathering data that's then used by the broadcasters.
Like tons of data.
Yeah, sometimes it's power stuff, cadence stuff, other things, depending on what the race has agreed they can broadcast. But the little bit you see on the fork, that's just a timing chip transponder. And then when they cross the finish line, that registers their exact finishing time on a stage.
Cool fact, it can measure down to 1,000th of a second, maybe even a little bit more accurate, some of them. Pretty cool. Also, before we move on to the next question, I'm just reminding myself, they're latex tubes normally, which are put over the top of those transponders, trying to make it a little bit more aerodynamic.
Yeah, just a little bit of latex tube.
Perfect. Nice. Next question is from Dinesh Kumar, who says, hi GCN, can I run 18 to 25 inner tubes on a 28mm tyre? Thanks. Yeah, of course you can. I wouldn't worry about it. I've done it a number of times in the past. The only difference will be where it's a slightly smaller diameter inner tube, it will stretch a little bit to fill the tyre. So technically, you've got a slightly thinner inner tube that could puncture a little bit easier, but the difference is so negligible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very tiny
I wouldn't
amount.
worry about it.
Yeah, you should be okay. Kiki Arenato says, I have a problem when installing wheels on my bike frame. The rim always hits the brake pad, got a rim brake frame, on one side. It's also the same for the back wheel too. I always set the brakes repeatedly and then hold the rim to help keep it in the center line. And when he tightens the QR, is this normal for a bike with a quick release hub? How can I fix it?
Oh, I've got to go on this one because this is something that just very slightly bugs me. So what I think from what I'm hearing from their question is, they're putting the wheels into their bike and then pulling the brake to try and center the wheel. But effectively, because the brake isn't central, they're just pulling the wheel across. So then the wheel isn't sat straight in the bike. This is the problem they're having. So I think what you need to do is start the process from scratch. When you put the wheel into the bike, you then need to make sure it's sat correctly in the dropouts. Don't worry about centralizing the rim to the brake. So get it straight in the dropouts, then adjust your brake to be central to the wheel. I think that's the basic principle, because I've seen a number of people do this. Put the wheel in their bike, pull the brake lever, do the quick release up. Effectively, all you're doing is making your wheel not sit correctly in the frame.
Yeah, another thing I've seen people do, and this is something that you typically get with rear wheels and not with front wheels, is sometimes the dishing is set different on the wheel.
Oh, yeah.
And so sometimes, this is where the rim is in relation to the hub. There is actually in terms of how you tension the spokes, you can adjust what's known as the dishing. So it's where moving the rim, say 5mm left or 5mm to the right or so. And if it's not dished perfectly centrally for your bike, then you can have the problem you're discussing, where it will be then rubbing on one side of the brake. I think what Alex is suggesting is more likely in this case, but it could be that your rear wheel is not dished right for your bike. That is something that is quite rare, but it can happen sometimes. So
be a trip to the bike shop, that one.
Bike shop will be able to tell you.
Nice. Next one is Hugh Niremo. Niremo?
Niremo.
God, you're so much better at the names. Says, hi Alex, is it possible for a gravel bike to use a mountain bike group set? For example, Shimano XT front chainring crank cassette and rear mech together with a Shimano 105 shift up? It certainly is possible. In fact, I've ridden a couple of different gravel bikes which have a mixture of Shimano with, so maybe GRX, as well as some of their mountain bike components with the road components. Basically, the pull ratio of the cable is the same, so it should work perfectly fine. And also something I rode the other week was a gravel bike which had E-tap. So it had the Eagle E-tap rear mountain bike derailleur on it and the E-tap road shifters. So again, compatible on Shimano and on SRAM. Pretty cool.
Next question is from Brian Lowe, who says he's seen a lot of pros with white stickers on their handlebars or their stem during races, and he's curious, what do they have written on these stickers? Well, this is quite a common thing, and it's their stem notes, and it's typical for when riders look at a stage and they go through the race book and they'll mark off key information. So with distance markers, so it'll be like at 50 kilometers in, there's a sprint. Yeah, that's what you'd be looking for. Or at 60 kilometers in, there's a feed zone. Or at 65 kilometers, there's like a dodgy turn, like a technical section. They need to be wary of it. And things like that. And just all the key points and mid-distance markers in the race so they know roughly what's coming and when it's coming. This is something you see very commonly on things such as Paris-Roubaix.
Yeah, so real key.
Yeah, when's the next cobble sector coming, at what time in the race and things like that. But yeah, that's what they are.
Something I've wondered though is why we don't see many riders using the facility on their head unit, which could ultimately display the same information at the relevant point when it's needed. That's something that I wanted to experiment with when I was still racing, but I mean I've retired now, so it doesn't matter anymore. But it's an interesting thing to take. Yeah, next question is from Deshaun Halley, sorry. Yeah. Says, I'm looking to upgrade my smart trainer to a direct drive trainer. I was looking at 10-speed cassettes online and noticed that Shimano do Ultegra and 105. Is there a difference, or do I need to get a matching cassette? Well, one that matches to his bike.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to. I
would say get a 105 rather than Ultegra, because the only real difference between 105 and Ultegra, the shifting quality is the same. Yeah. The difference is mainly weight, and seeing as you're not actually going uphill on a turbo trainer, I wouldn't worry about the weight. Yeah. So save yourself a bit of money, get 105, Groupset the people.
Keep it simple. Nice. Next question is from Marc-Andre Lacoste. Says, little question, for the same frame and same components, could we save money if I buy the bike in parts instead of all pre-mounted? So presumably, is it better to buy an off-the-peg, off-the-shelf bike, or buy all the components separately and build it up? The simple answer is, it's a lot cheaper to buy a complete bike rather than buying all of the parts separately. Yeah. Although it is good fun buying all the parts, speccing your bike out exactly how you like, and also, as you build it up along the way, you'll learn quite a lot of handy skills to repair your bike.
That is, of course, the only exception being to that if you spent loads of time scouring around for deals and maybe getting some really good kind of used bargains of bits that are in great condition, you know, looking on online sites and auction sites and things, then you could probably get something and save quite a bit of money and build something amazing. But that's going to take quite a bit of time to do that. But if that's what you want to do, yeah.
Either way is a good one. It's just one might be slightly cheaper, but it's a good fun building your bike. I've done it a number of times in the past. So,
Last question this week is from Martin Novotarski, who says, Ollie and Alex, can you run different sized tyres on a road bike? For example, 28 millimeters on the front, 30 millimeters on the rear. What would be the advantages and disadvantages of this kind of tyre setup? Thanks.
This is something we were only speaking about the other day, wasn't it?
I'm actually doing this right now on my bike. So, got Zip 303s on there, and I've put a 28 on the front and a 30 mil on the back. Reason being is because on the front you can have a bit, and I do it on the TT bike at the moment as well. 23 Pirelli on the front, 25 on the back. Reason being for this is it's a little bit, you know, frontal area is a little bit more important on the front. Yeah. So you want it to be a bit more narrow because then you're reducing that frontal area. Your bike's a bit more aerodynamic when you're going above kind of 40 kilometers an hour. And on the rear, bigger tyre gives you a bit more grips, a bit more comfortable, and most of your weight, most of the time when you're cruising along, is on the rear. Yeah. So yeah, it's a bit more.
The frame sort of covers a lot of the rear tyre, doesn't it? So
yeah, and aero is not that important for the width of tyre on the rear. And so you benefit from the extra grip, more comfort, and lower rolling of a slightly wider tyre.
That principle works across lots of different tyre sizes. So it could be that you do 23 on the front, 25 on the rear, 25 on the front, 28 on the rear, or you could do 28 on the front, 30 on the rear. So you've got lots of different options, haven't you, really? Yeah.
Cool. You don't have to do it, but I'm experimenting with it, and I quite like it.
That's it for this week. That was the last question. Hope this week's Tech Link has been helpful. If we haven't answered your question, keep submitting it in the comments section down below, and hopefully we'll get to it next week.
Yeah.
Right. See you later.
Bye.